بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما.
Now what I did is I made some few changes as per my topology. So there was some issue with the management interface. Normally, most of the time it works, when you do the labs, but sometimes it's not working. I tried multiple things. So what I did is instead of using this interface, I'm using the same interface which connects to my inside. Also, I'm using the same interface for your remote access. You can do that. So what I did is we already have the IP address of G0 by 1. So I made some changes. So I'm connecting this G0 by 1 interface here. So this G0 by 1 interface is being connected to my LAN. Now this is my LAN as well as my management. And I have changed the IP of this is 10.0.10.5. So I moved to the PC and even I have changed the IP address here. So we just try to see the interface IP. I made those changes. So 10.0.10.5. So now if you try to verify the reachability here, the reachability is working. And even if I try to go back and close this TFTP server and try to reopen that Cisco TFTP, it must be using this 10.0.10.5 here. Now we do have reachability. Now what we'll do is we'll be copying this one. So in my step, I'm going to use the copy TFTP and the flash. This is the step what I'm going to do on my remote server. So it's a copy TFTP to flash. Now address of the remote host. Now the remote host is 10.0.10.5. That is the actual IP now what I'm using. The address of the TFTP server, the PC address. And what is the source file name? Now, if you can copy this source file name. Now this is inside my G drive where I have changed. Now this is the file name. So I need to specify the same file name, asdm-761.pim. There's the file name. Destination file name, I want to keep it same. And you can see immediately it starts copying. So if everything is okay, if you have the reachability, if you have everything perfectly working, then you should see those hashes indicating that the copying process is done from your TFTP, the local device, the computer to your device. So once this is done, normally what I should see is I must be able to see the file should be copied. So these things we need to do. So before we enable the ASDM on your ASA device, we need to make sure that you have that ASDM image inside your flash. And once you copy that, if it is not present, then we need to copy that. And once you add that, then we need to enable that particular ASDM image as well. So there is a set of configurations we need to do after this. So let's quickly wait for this to finish the process, and then we'll be getting back again. What are the additional steps we need to do? So now you can see the time it takes, approximately around 2.5 minutes. I think not 2.5 minutes, 228 seconds. So you can just calculate that. And once this gets copied, if I go ahead and verify the show flash, what I should see is I must be able to see that ASDM file onto my device, which confirms that we do have the ASDM file in my machine. So even we need to set this image. Now there is a command called ASDM. I think I need to get into the global configuration mode. We have to say ASDM image. Inside the flash, I need to set this image name. What is that? Flash ASDM, this image. So we need to enter this command. Now what this command will do is it is going to configure the ASA to load the ASDM image at the next reboot. And it is going to use this particular ASDM image file while it is rebooting. Now, this is something kind of optional, not compulsory, even if you don't do that, if you just have one ASDM image. But let's say if you have multiple ASDM images, you can specifically tell which ASDM image it has to use at the time of next reboot. And that's what this command specifically tells. Now, once we do this configuration, the next step is we need to enable some few CLI configurations here, like we have to enable the HTTP on the ASA. because the ASA is going to use this GUI interface through the browser. So there must be HTTP enabled. HTTP service should be enabled. And at the same time, we also need to tell that HTTP should be enabled from which interface. If I'm using management interface, and what subnet you want to allow. So I can be more specific. But let's say in my case, I need to say HTTP server enable. That's a command to enable. If you're using, again, HTTP server enable, that's a command. And the next thing we need to say, HTTP should be enabled from which subnet. Now, again, if you want to just allow any subnet, you can just say 00 and then from which interface you want to allow. Or you can be more specific, like I want to allow 10.0.10. subnet. So that is the actual subnet what I'm using. 10.0.10. subnet. 255.255.2550. And then from my inside interface. And already we do have the username already created, admin. So I can still go ahead and use the same account, the admin user, or I can go ahead and create a new user account if you want. So these commands are going to enable the HTTP service, and HTTP on which interface should be enabled, which network. And then you need to you require a username and the password to log in. Now, once we are done with this, now we are ready to go ahead and start accessing your Asdm via browser. So which means now I need to go back to my PC from where I need to use any of the browser. So whatever the browser you have, let's say I have a Mozilla Firefox. I think it's the same machine. I can use any of the browser. Now I don't need this Tftp, so I can close this one. So I can go ahead and type in the IP address. What is the IP address of the ASA? 100.0, not 100. It's 10.0.10.10. So that is the IP address of my ASA, because I'm accessing from my local subnet. So if you check the topology here, so this is 10.0.10. Subnet, and I've enabled the access from here. So I should be able to access that if everything is okay. So you can see this is how I can access, use HTTPS and then 10.0.10.10. And if your internet is not required, and try to disable those interfaces, because sometimes it will use your internet interface to access. It will show you some warning message. Just simply go to advanced, accept the risk and continue. And this is what the first page looks like. Now in this page, again, you will see two options. Either you can simply go ahead and launch the Asdm Launcher, and you can start the Asdm from here, from the browser. But this is again not recommended, because every time going to the browser and then launching the Asdm is not recommended. Instead, what you can do is you can go ahead and install the Java applet. Now at the backend, you need a Java runtime or the Java program to run these things at the backend, and then you can install the Asdm Launcher as well, Asdm Launcher also. But before that, I recommend you to install the Asdm Launcher. And before you install the Java first. So when you click on this install Java, if your device is already connecting to the internet, you can it will automatically redirect to the portal from where you can download the Java applet directly from the Java website. From the java.com website, you can download and install. If not, you can also download a pre-installed file and you can use that as well. So let me see if this is connecting to my internet or not, because I'm not getting redirected to that page. So just make sure that you have connected to internet as well. So either you can download that, or even you can download this Java file and you can install that. Let me try with this one. Maybe it is a kind of older version of the Java which I'm trying to install, because my remote server, I'm unable to get access to the internet. But normally what happens is when you go and redirect, when you go and click on these pages, it should redirect to the Java website from where you can download. So if you quickly check the things on my server here. If I go back to my workbook, where you can see the screenshots here, normally this is how it looks. This is how it generally looks. When you click on install Java website, it is going to redirect to this URL, to the Java website, where you can simply go ahead and click on agree and install. And the installation process is almost the same thing what we generally do for any other applications here. So in this case here, I was trying to install, we have successfully installed this one, the Java applet. And again, it is going to enable this Java plugin. So we can enable the Java plugin. Now, this is the issue actually was I'm using the server operating system. It's not allowing this. So I can, let me try here. So HTTPS, I'll use Internet Explorer here. The problem is my server is blocking the sites, few sites. 10.0.10.10. Continue to this website. To add this to the trusted websites. Update, your Java version is out of date. You can see it says it's out of date. And I think the issue is with the internet. I cannot do that. Now here you can see once you install the Java, this is how the interface will change. Now in terms of interface here, you will see basically it's going to say you want to run the Asdm directly from the browser. So last time I said this is something you can download. In fact, this is actually the one which is going to run the Asdm from the web browser interface, not this one. And this is the actual installation file. You can install the setup wizard. Now, the best practice, you can just go ahead and install the Sdm Launcher as a local application. And this is going to prompt the username and the password of your ASA. If you remember the login credentials of the ASA. And once you do this, it's going to download the application from your ASA. You can save this application and you can just execute the application. Now, this is kind of local application you're going to download on your local machine so that every time you want to launch the ASDM, you don't need to go to the browser. Now, next time onwards, I don't need to open up this browser. I can just go to my PC and there will be a Asdm Launcher here, this one. I can directly launch from here. So you can use the browser only for the first time. That's what we did. And next time onwards, I can simply open up this Cisco Asdm Launcher. But in order for that to work, the prerequisite is you need to install the Java application in the backend that should be enabled on the browser, which is something it's going to do automatically once you install. And after that, you need to download the Asdm Launcher. That's something recommended instead of using the browser. And once you click on that, it will open up this Asdm Launcher. This is the one. Let me minimize all the remaining options. Now from here, now I'm going to launch my ASA. So what is the IP address of my ASA? From my LAN interface, I'm using 10.0.10.10. What is the username and the password, what I created, the admin. And then the password is envoy123. Envoy123, that's the name. You can also remember this and click OK. Once you click OK, you can continue. Now it will load the launcher, the Asdm Launcher application after this. Now, once it loads up, which means now you have the Asdm application here on your ASA. Now, this is the interface from where we do all the changes. Now, this is the actual interface. Now, next time onwards, you don't need to install or do all these steps because you have the ASA Asdm image is already there, and you have the Asdm Launcher here. You simply open up this launcher and log into your ASA. Now, this is how it looks. Now, everything you can see here, the device dashboard, the ASA, what I'm using, and you can see the interface status, everything in the form of GUI. And if you go to the configuration tab, again, here you can do the configurations, like if you want to do any interface configurations, make any changes to the interface. Let's say I want to make some changes to my management interface. I want to change the name of the interface, security level I want to change, or you want to remove these options, everything you can see, change the IP address, change the subnet mask. So all these options. Anyway, most of the advanced configurations, what we do, we will be using ASDM. Even you can go ahead and configure the ACLs, NAT, the VPNs, everything from the GUI also. So most of the time when we get into the configuration part, we will be using CLI and GUI. Both options will be verifying so that you are well familiar with the both. But again, it's up to you to decide which you want to use. So in terms of CCI exams, or generally you will have access to both. But most of the configurations, simple configurations like ACLs, NAT, we generally prefer to go with the CLI, which I prefer, but you can still use the GUI interface for this. Now, for all these things, you need to do some prerequisite setup as what we discussed here. If I go back, the first thing we need to make sure that we do have reachability. That's what we did. So make sure that you have the compatible ASDM version to your ASA. We need to copy that if it is not present using Tftp. That's what we did. And once we copy that, then we need to enable the HTTP and then enable the HTTP from which interface. So normally we use management interfaces. And then we need to get into the browser. And once you get into the browser, the thing is you need to install the Java runtime, JRE, or the Java Web Start. If you have internet access directly, you can do this, or you can install the same file, which I'll again upload to the same drive in the ASA folder. You can also use that one. And once you install the Java, then you can go ahead and install the Sdm Launcher. Now, again, the advantage of using the Asgm Launcher, as I said, if you install this, then you don't need to go to the browser each and every time you want to log in. That's something recommended. So whenever you are trying to install this Asgm Launcher, it is going to prompt the username and the password of your ASA. And once you connect, it will install and it will create a desktop shortcut. And using the desktop shortcut, you can always log into your ASA via GUI interface.